So, my next step for starting to rope off a horse that's never been roped off of before, I have a Makati style setup with my snaffle. I generally don't go to just chucking the rope off them, swinging the rope, because this is my security right here, generally when they get to hogging around. So I want to be able to grab that if I need. So with my Makati here, I'll take it over on this side, this extra part that you tuck into your pant, into your belt loop or whatever. Some people tie it onto their saddle. It's whatever you prefer to do. So I'll generally take this Makati and I'll kind of start flinging it around, let him see it with that eye. And he's been sacked out before with a lead rope, so he's had this done. So then I'll start kind of doing this with them. Now, I've done this with the lead rope on the ground, but it's a different situation when you're on their back. You're not right there for them to see you. So it's really good to do this. Let them know that you're on their back, that this is okay. Some horses will start freaking out in this situation right here. Let them see it in that eye. I'll take it. I'll kind of touch them on the butt with it. I'll take it and go underneath, just like you're sacking them out with the lead rope on the ground. Touch their front legs, around their chest, up around the neck. I'll come on this side, do the same thing. Generally, when you're roping off a horse, you don't go to the other side because it's harder to do it this way. Some people do. I'm not experienced enough of a roper to do that kind of stuff, so but I'll do everything you do on one side with a horse, you do on the other. Everything you do on one side, you do on the other, because they don't have that pathway that crosses in between each side of the brain to communicate. Once you taught them on one side, you have to teach them on the other, because they're not like humans, where, you know, someone comes and pushes you on the ribs on this side, and you are like, oh, they want me to move over. And if they go to this side, you're like, oh, well, they did that on the other side. Horses don't have that capability in their brain because they're built different. So they don't bypass information from one side of the brain to the other. So after I do this, I'll generally take it and I'll go up above my head. And that noise right there can generally be a problem. Usually when you're roping, I'll kind of take it and try to duck it down in front of him. So he sees that Makati going down in front of his nose, and he just doesn't care. I'll take it after that, because a lot of times if you're swinging a loop and you just stop, it comes down, hits him in the legs, hits him in the front. Sometimes it'll hit him in the butt. So that's something I usually like to do. Like I said, go and touch him everywhere. Sorry, but I'm not meaning to pop you in the nose. But that's a good thing there too. Even though he got popped in the nose, he didn't react. So if that does happen, you're swinging your loop and you accidentally, you know, you go to swing your loop down and it comes up and hits him in the nose. He already knows that didn't kill him. So we're gonna tuck this back in my belt loop here. We're gonna back up so we're not hitting the wall of the barn when we swing that loop out. So he handled that awesome. Obviously, he didn't care. He's acted like I've swung a loop off him before. And then like I did on the ground, I'll take this rope, touch him all over, get him used to that noise. Like I said, doing something on the ground is completely different than doing it on his back. You are not on the ground for him to seek and go to you for safety. You are on his back. You already are his safety on his back. So teaching your horse on their back can be completely different, just like teaching them on one side, teaching them on the other. So I'll take this loop. Generally don't build a serious loop, just something to get the point across. Same thing. This loop's a little stiff, so do this. That's a different noise than the Makati because it's a different material. He doesn't care about that noise. Swing the loop around, touch him on the butt, touch him on the chest, underneath. Just Just get them used to the feel of that rope. So when you do go to roping something and you're touching something that you never touched before with that rope and they react, especially with a reactive horse, they can blow up. So touch them in as many places as possible with this rope. Then we're going to go up and above and not to the side. He doesn't care. We're going to let go. We're going to reward him. Letting the pressure off. He's doing really good. You always release pressure when that horse is doing good. If you're swinging the loop and you're like, oh, well, he's not reacting, and then you go to throw it, you know, that's one, and he freaks out. That just means he did one too many steps at once. You want to do one step at a time, break it down into little steps for that horse to understand. So we're going to swing it above him again. He don't care. He's just a little antsy. He's not reacting to the rope. He's just being a little, he hasn't been ridden in a couple weeks, so he's wanting to move. All right, so now we're going to throw that loop out. Start out. Good boy. A lot of horses will react to that. If they jump at that and they're looking at that rope, don't go to coiling it up and bringing it back to you right away. Let them process that that rope's on the ground. Didn't jump up and bite them in the face. That it's just laying there. It's okay. Let him stand there. He's licking and chewing. He's already accepted. He doesn't care. So we're going to start bringing back that loop nice and slow. One coil at a time. So it's not jumping up at him. So he's processing, okay, it's coming back at me. It's not going to hurt me. Right here's one of those times when you're coiling that loop, that rope might swing up and hit him in the front legs. But that's not a big deal because you already did that. You already touched his front legs with that rope. Build another loop. And he did really good the last time, so we're going to go a little bit faster this time. Try to push his limits. Swing a couple loops. Throw it out there. And then immediately you could start coiling it back. If your horse reacted a lot more than he did, because he didn't react at all, like I said, throw it out there, and if he reacts to you throwing it again, then you just sit there and you watch and you wait for them to relax. Then you start bringing it back slowly. And as they start accepting it more and more, you could start building your speed with it. Start throwing it out there faster. Maybe throw a little trick out there and just throw it out with no warning. Bring it back. Here's one of those times as I'm coiling it up, that loop's flipping around and it's hitting him in the legs and he's not caring because I already did that on the ground and I already did that on his back. And you just go to building up speed. As they get more comfortable, you build up more speed to what you're doing. You don't push your horse. You want to push them in a sense that they're outside of their comfort zone, but not to the point where they're panicking and they lose their mind. Hit the shed that time, made a little noise, he jumped a little bit, still doesn't care. See that loop flying around on the ground right there? You just don't care, so we're just going to keep doing it. Now if he was dancing around and looking at that loop, I'd just move it a little less, keep the movement going, but maybe not as intense. You still want to remain in control. And then, you know, I'll take breaks in between and do different things. I'll go and take this loop and I'll take the loop itself. Oop. And I'll do this. Oh, got caught on my tap, rubbing on their head. He don't care. Get it around their neck because that's going to happen, especially if you're a beginner roper like me. You're going to get it. You're going to rope your horse probably more than you'll rope any calves like I do. Take this loop. Put it around his butt, pull on it, because that's going to happen too. You might be swinging and then kind of half-hearted, let it drop in the back. You rope your own horse's butt. Sometimes you rope your own horse's heels instead of the calf's heels. Then I'll take it and then swing it around his chest, swing it around his butt. Just get him used to everything that you possibly can. If you can think of a situation that's going to happen, you want to prepare him for that, especially if you have a reactive horse. A horse like this, I wouldn't necessarily be so worried because he's got a good mind, but you got a super reactive horse and you got a situation where you got your calf roped and you got a calf headed and you're going, and that calf comes up behind your horse and you have not worked with having a rope behind your horse's butt like this, they're going to react to that. That is a big ordeal for a lot of horses, that pressure right there around their hind end. So you want to do that, and you just want to do the best for your horse, preparing them just like you study for a test. You want to prepare your horse in the same way. You want to go out, you want to work with them, you want to get them ready for that test. You don't want to just throw them in there and be like, all right, we're doing this today. I kind of threw a loop off you one time and we're going roping, which I've done before, and luckily I've had some good horses to handle it because I had no other horse to rope off of that day and it needed to be done. But in reality, you really should prepare your horse to the best of your ability so that they can have a positive experience, you can have a positive experience, and it's just a good thing all around. You know, if you get invited to brandings or team ropings and stuff, if you're constantly getting in a wreck because you never prepared your horse for this and it's just freaking out, you know, some people are willing to help, but a lot of people, I mean, it just makes it not as much fun for everyone else when you're there and your horses are acting up, and it just makes it high stress for everybody. So you want to take your time at home and prepare your horse for everything possible. You want to touch them with this rope everywhere, because you wouldn't believe the areas that ropes go when you're roping calves and they got their own mind. I have roped calves before and they've come back at me and ran underneath my horse, and my rope has gone underneath, in between, and the calf is under there, and I got the rope underneath my horse. And if you're on a good horse, you could just like earlier when I had in my previous video, when I had it wrapped around his legs and I said you could just let it go on the ground, drop a bunch of slack, back him or walk him forward over the top of that rope, and then you could face your calf. And then you don't have a big wreck, even though that could have been a big wreck if you did not prepare your horse for that situation. Especially, like I said, with reactive horses. Reactive horses might have blown up in that even if you had exposed them, but you might have a lot less of a blow up if your horse isn't reacting. So next step I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a couple of these coils, I'm going to drop it on the ground. He's already seen that rope, so we're just going to go, we're going to walk around and let him see that rope move. Kind of turn him in circles around it so he can see it. See that rope moving? You don't want to just head off down the rail and have it touching his hind legs and dragging behind him, because a horse is a prey animal. Stuff coming up behind him is a big ordeal. Just like when you wrap that rope around that horse's butt. See right there, no reaction at all. He's perfectly fine. That is another thing. Along with throwing the loop out in front of your horse, having that rope drag behind your horse is another big ordeal. That noise behind them, coming up behind them, and they can't see it, it can really, really mess them up. Like I said, they're prey animals, so stuff coming up behind them that they can't see can really be a big ordeal. So we're going to go out this way. Kind of cut across around that rope. We're going to kind of turn, let it touch him a little bit. Let it touch his hind legs. Which again, we prepared for this on the ground. We did this when we roped him. That rope touched his hind legs before, so he has a general idea of what to do. But like I said, it's completely different when you're on the ground versus when you're on their back. You're in front of them for them to see you and have security in you, versus when you're on their back and they can't see you. And having a horse that has confidence in you, like Bravo has confidence in me, will help out a lot in this situation, because he knows that he can be confident in me when I'm on his back as well as when I'm on the ground. The next thing we're going to do here, he's handling that rope, touching his legs. We're going to walk up here so the rope is behind him. gonna coil that rope up from behind us. Again, that rope might come up and nip him in the heels, but like I said, we prepared for that on the ground. So he has a general idea. There we go, hit his legs with it. He has a general idea of what's going on.